This video is brought to you by Gigabyte, who teamed up with NVIDIA and PC builder Simple Mods to create this custom build based on 007 First Light, featuring a custom chassis, a Gigabyte RTX 5070 Ti Windforce GPU, and a Ryzen 5 processor. It's an incredible piece of kit, and we're giving it away to one lucky Australian or New Zealand viewer. If you fit the bill, then click the link in the description below, and now onto the video. Gamers, hard to remember a show as packed as this one. I mean, we had CD Projekt Red announce a release window for The Witcher 4 even before Gamescom began. Then we had Gamescom opening night live, and hidden among the 12 gacha games were some actual, real, honest-to-goodness video games. And then to top everything off, just over 12 hours ago now, the Netflix GTA special aired, the first ever paywalled video game trailer. Please God, let it be the last. So we're going to talk about all of that and more, but let's get to that GTA gameplay first. I mean, we've been waiting 10 years for it now. I don't want to keep you waiting any longer. Alright, so the first thing I want to say is that I remember Strauss-Zelnick saying something like, when you see the preview on Netflix, you'll understand why it's on Netflix. To that I say, what? I watched this 26 minutes of gameplay, and at no point was I thinking to myself, oh yeah, you really had to put this on a paid streaming platform. If anything, I was actually a little bit disappointed by the packaging here, since I would have loved to have heard at least something from the developers or the actors, or been taken behind the scenes a little to learn about some of the new tech that Rockstar have built in order to bring this world to life. So that part of it was disappointing, but that was pretty much the only part that was disappointing, because GTA 6 looks absolutely extraordinary. It just does. It looks like the thing you could make if you had the infinite money glitch enabled and effectively infinite time. And I don't mean that derisively. Say what you will about Rockstar, and I have said and will continue to say a lot, but the fact of the matter is they've built an incredible portfolio of games that have resulted in an outsized level of commercial success. And whereas something like the Pokemon Company seems to pocket those earnings, Rockstar clearly reinvests a significant portion of them to push new technological frontiers. Vice City, as we see it here, is easily the most dense, most realistic, and most beautiful city ever rendered in a video game. And that's setting aside the fact that it's not just a city, since certain sections of the trailer depict various outdoor landscapes, including wetlands. The density and reactivity of traffic makes the driving experience seem more immersive than ever. The number of people walking the streets or in crowd scenes is everything that was promised in that initial reveal trailer and then some. The breadth of gameplay experiences, from street racing to dirt bike riding to jet skiing to gym sessions to smash and grab robberies to so much more, it seems almost impossible in this modern era, where games have become so much more siloed in the experiences they offer, because player expectations are so much higher and development budgets are so much bigger. The fact that this is running on a base PS5, by the way, is just absolutely absurd. But while GTA looks to overawe with its scale, it also seeks to impress with its attention to detail. Individual light switches that you can interact with in your apartment, a hard cover system in certain scenarios, weak points highlighted on enemies during shootouts, individual bottles on a shelf that move with their own physics when someone bumps into them. The way that hair and clothing flow with motion or flap in the breeze. Red Dead Redemption 2 was famous for this sort of attention to detail, and Rockstar seems to be bringing the exact same attention to GTA 6. That's not the only point of comparison between Red Dead 2 and GTA 6, mind you. There's an overall feeling of GTA 6 being slower and more deliberate than other games in the series, with a big focus on immersive gameplay systems like exercise and food consumption affecting your physique, putting on disguises before doing crimes, and manual inputs for carjacking. The Wanted system seems to reference things like the clothes you were wearing or the car you were driving when you were last seen. There's also the combat, which seems to have a slow down dead-eye mechanic, as well as kill cams when you dispatch the last person in a firefight. For me, it's the storytelling and cinematography that really stood out. GTA games have long been pioneers on this front, but 6 takes things to an entirely new level with presentation that isn't just good for a video game, but rather as good as you'd hope for from a blockbuster Hollywood film. The camera work in this car scene, by the way, oh my god, this was just amazing. In fact, this entire sequence felt like it was straight up out of a Michael Mann film. I really loved it. And that's the thing, right? The core of GTA gameplay is always going to be walking, shooting, and driving. And so I was never expecting things to evolve much on that front. What I was hoping for was an incredibly immersive world, and so far GTA 6 is exceeding those expectations. I was hoping for a level of graphical fidelity that raises the bar, and so far GTA 6 is exceeding those expectations too. And I was hoping for storytelling and missions that imbue this gameplay with significance, because most of the time that gameplay is simple. But if you can get me really caring about what I'm doing, if you can dress it up the way that Red Dead 2 did, then I'm going to be on board. And I am 100% on board with this. I really do think it looks incredible, and honestly, I'm significantly more more invested in it now than I was before. There was a risk that GTA 6 could have been a silly murder simulator, something slicker, more arcadey, embracing the chaos of GTA Online to make for an easier transition to the multiplayer mode. But instead, what we got here feels like Bonnie and Clyde directed by Michael Mann, and that's just about the best thing I could have hoped for. And that's really all I have to say about it for now, though I do expect we'll see plenty more of the game before it releases on November 19th, so do stay tuned. Alright, so that's the first big news item of the week ticked off. What else was there? Oh, that's right. The world's largest annual video game conference is happening right now over in Germany. We should probably take a look at that. As usual, the show is actually divided into two parts, the pre-show and the main event, but unusually, the pre-show is hosted by recent Friends Per Second podcast guest host Kyle Bosman, a commentator I have a real soft spot for since his delayed input show is really great and I really recommend checking it out if you haven't. Anyway, Kyle had a few things to show off, most interesting of which was probably this one. Take a look. This is Mariachi Legends, a pixel art Metroidvania that puts you in the shoes of Pablo Cruz, a detective who struck up a deal with Death herself, giving him the power of La Sombra to combat the forces of evil set against a beautifully pixelated Mexican backdrop. It's got a smooth looking combo system and some slick animations, so anyone craving some Symphony of the Night, this looks like it'll be right up your alley. Q4 2026 for this one, all platforms. A lot of the pre-show was made up of sequels or spin-offs to long-running franchises like Worms, which got an isometric tactical roguelike game called Worms Galactic Tactics, along with a teaser for a new installment in the mainline series. Speaking of classics, Roller Coaster Tycoon is also back with a new entry called Wonderworks, featuring Bubsy as a theme park mascot and fully destructible rides. Can't wait to see what insane contraptions people come up with for this one. Steam Early Access coming very soon. One final highlight for the pre-show is a game inspired by the classics, but it's doing its own thing. Check it out. This is Acornia Mirror Worlds from the team that made the excellent Tinykin. You play as a squirrel named Alva who can swap between the light and dark worlds of Acornia at any time. She uses her Kirby-like cheek pouches to suck up and spit out weaponized pastries in the dark realm, while filling up display cases and plates for the customers of her family's pastry shop in the light realm. Sounds kind of nuts, but also looks kind of great. 2027 for this one, all platforms. Okay, thanks Carl, but now it's time for Daddy Keeley to take the stage and wow us with what I'm pretty sure is Elden Ring 2. Well, let's check the name of the game at the end of the trailer just to be safe.
At last, ye did unveil the divine power ye had stolen. Bear the god's wrath.
That's right, if you thought Elden Ring or Monster Hunter couldn't be sucked up by the Hoyoverse imitation machine, think again. This is Noticefall, and yeah, it's exactly what it looks like. I mean, the art style looks good, don't get me wrong, but honestly, it looks so much like the source material that you might just want to dive back into Elden Ring to get your fix. At least there, you won't have to deal with the gacha mechanics. No release date or platform for this one just yet. Hey, this next one's pretty cool. Rainbow Six is getting a single-player experience for the first time in 19 years, and it's a turn-based tactics game. Take a look.
This is it. These tangles are in for a surprise. Take your positions, team. Breaching!
6 on station. Let's show Cares that Rainbow's back.
This is Rainbow Six Tactics, very straightforward title. This combo feels like a bit of a no-brainer, and with the renaissance of high-profile tactics games like Star Wars Zero Company and Fortune's Weave releasing this year, I hope the tactics genre can keep this momentum. It's an XCOM-style isometric experience where you recruit operators from the Rainbow Six games and use breaching mechanics like breaking down walls and invisible camo to get the advantage. Mission types include hostage rescue, bomb defusal, and target elimination, just like in the multiplayer game, as well as an HQ outside of missions that you can explore to level up your squad. Some tough competition from other games in this genre, so let's hope the team behind it is up for the challenge. This will come to all platforms bar Switch in 2027. Speaking of legacy franchises, Gears of War. We've got a sneak peek of some of the story bits for Gears of War E-Day. Here's a taste.
Good to see a few more Gears made it through the night. You 4 belong to me now. Designation, Bravo Squad. No one knows what these things are or where they're coming from.
This is more than an invasion.
It's a fucking war.
Yep, that certainly is Gears of War. Big, buff, macho dudes with no necks walking around sawing down monsters. I'm actually allowed to say now that I've played this one since Xbox did send me an early preview build of the single player campaign, and I had a really great time with it. I will discuss it more next week, but for now I will tell you that the single player side of this is shaping up really nicely. Multiplayer, I can't say since I wasn't able to participate in the beta test. NetEase's GTA clone Anada got a release date of January 15th, 2027. The trailer showed off a new city with a metric shit ton of stuff to do. Man, can't believe we're getting GTA 7 less than 2 months after GTA 6. Be wary though, this is a NetEase free-to-play experience, so do be ready to dodge a cavalcade of gacha. We got a surprise trailer for an enhanced edition of Crimson Desert, which adds the slew of improvements and tweaks the game has been getting since launch, along with, quote, new story moments, end quote. Chatter from those who have already tested the update indicate that the story has received quite a massive overhaul, and it's significantly better, at least for the opening hours. Keen to check this one out for myself at some point. Another surprise came in the trailer for Tides of Annihilation. See if you can hear it.
Use it to command your spectral knights.
Guinevere. Teach me.
The reason the voice of this main character, Gwendolyn, sounds so familiar is because she's played by none other than Angela Santabano, who did an excellent job voicing Grace Ashcroft in Resident Evil Requiem. Outside of the voice cast, the premise here sounds really cool. Gwendolyn is able to call forth the Knights of the Round Table to help her in battle while she restores the balance between London and the realm of Avalon. The set pieces look massive and the action looks flashy, although we will have to see how that frame rate holds up. This one's going to be on everything bar Switch, no release date just yet. Next up, we got more gameplay for Mega Man Dual Override. Stu on our team actually got the chance to play this one recently, and he thought it was a true return to form, meaning it'll kick your ass every damn day and twice on Sunday. He had a great time with it regardless and can't wait for the release sometime in 2027 on all platforms. Oh yeah, and Pragmata is also getting Mega Man themed outfits. Cute, but also kind of terrifying. A team I'm very glad we get to hear from again is Airship Syndicate. This is the outfit led by comic book artist Joe Madureira, and they worked on Darkside Genesis and the reworked MMO to ARPG Wayfinder. Plus, he's one of my favorite X-Men artists, and his Uncanny Run was truly generational. Their next game is called Dust Origins, and it's a gritty top-down shooter set in a horrifying sci-fi world. The art has always looked great in their games, and this is no exception. No further details for this one just yet. Mass Effect lovers can sleep easy knowing this next game is keeping the dream alive. Take a look.
Salt?
Yes.
Figured we could talk, since you're part of the team now.
Why?
Want to understand how you see things, how you operate.
This is another look at Exodus, the sci-fi RPG from Wizards of the Coast and Archetype Entertainment that seems to be hitting all the right notes for fans of BioWare games. The trailer introduced a companion character in Salt, a mercenary octopus in a mech suit that is trying to keep her people alive, and I'm gonna ask the question that I know is on everybody's mind. How does the octopus get from her tank to her suit? Wait, what? You had a different question about having sex with the octopus? What is the matter with you? You can already bang one squid creature in Baldur's Gate 3. How much more tentacle sex do you need? Japanese viewers, please do not answer that. 4th of July 2027 release date for this one, all platforms bar Switch, and I'm really resisting the urge to make a Splatoon joke right about now. One of the biggest surprises to come out of the show was this next title, also from Wizards of the Coast. Show 'em, Stu.
What is it you see? Raw magic. A means to an end.
This is Warlock Dungeons & Dragons from Wizards of the Coast and Invoke. The gameplay is looking super impressive, incanting on the spot to cool down a rainstorm and then using your lightning powers to electrocute enemies. Switching spots with an enemy right as a giant monster is about to crush you so it squashes them instead. Lady Demetriscu is a voice in your head calling out objectives for you. Where do I sign up, man? If Warlock can deliver on a fraction of the types of gameplay scenarios they've showed off here, then I will certainly be day one for this one. It's arriving 2027 for PC, Xbox, and PS5. One game I will also be day one for is Metro 2039. Take a look.
The leader of the Novo Reich. The enemy must be destroyed.
The Spartans were wolves in helmets. But I'm something worse.
Now, I could also reveal that I've also played this one since the team were kind enough to send me a build last week. I played about 2 hours of it and absolutely loved every second. Do look forward to some dedicated coverage next week. And the game itself releases February 2027 for PC, Xbox, and PS5. One of the biggest announcements of the show is the news that Path of Exile 2 is launching into 1.0 on the 11th of December this year. This is actually the perfect time for me to jump in and know live this game for a while, as all of the other major releases of the year will be out and played through by then. Thank you, Grinding Gear Games. You are a real one. Oh, and they're adding swords because somehow the game launched into early access without swords. Kind of feels like a bit of an oversight for a fantasy game, but hey, they're making it right. Speaking of games I know lifed as a kid, Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is actually getting a remake, and you're not going to believe this, but I already played this one too, since Ubisoft hooked me up with a preview build. Long story short, it's the same Heroes 3 I dumped hundreds or potentially thousands of hours into as a youngling, only now it looks way better, and it also has a number of quality of life improvements, like the ability to queue up construction projects at your base. Best of all, they're using a visual layer that allows you to upload any classic Heroes 3 map, and it will immediately get the remake glow up. A really nice, comprehensive, and thoughtful package that I think Heroes fans are going to appreciate. No date for this one yet, and Steam only for now. Hey, see if you can guess this next one from just the trailer.
You hear about this Gardner guy going after the mayors? The city won't shut up about him.
What have you heard?
Nobody sees him go in.
Nobody sees him come out.
If you said, oh cool, I didn't know Cyberpunk 2027 was getting an update, I wouldn't blame you, but you'd also be completely wrong because this is a fully unrelated title called No Law. You play as a middle-aged gardener going after the mayor in a cyberpunk city for reasons unknown. We've got some melee combat, some hacking, cool gunplay, tight stealth, and a bonsai tree to water. Honestly, it looks pretty rad. 2027 release for all platforms bar Switch. There are no ghosts at the Grand mashes up ghost busting with Power Wash Simulator to make a compelling gameplay loop where you're renovating and decorating the hotel you inherited by day while chasing down its ghosts and dark secrets at night. If that wasn't enough to entice you, Billy Boyd, aka Pippin, voices your renovation machine. And if that wasn't enough, it's already won awards at the Tribeca Film Festival, London Games Festival, and China Joy Gaming Development Awards. I think we might have something special here, but we'll have to wait and see when it launches into early access on Xbox and Steam in December. Okay, we finally made it to the biggest reveals of the night, and I'm not even talking about Final Fantasy VII Revelation. Director Naoki Yamaguchi was on stage to talk about the next anticipated title in the FF7 remake trilogy, and he sent us home with some fun new gameplay and boss fights. Thank you, Yamaguchi-san. The game is looking fantastic. We'll see you in spring of 2027. And now we come to it, the moment I know you've all been itching, or should I say, witching for this entire block. It's the man in the bathtub, Geralt himself, and he is back.
I see a white wolf striving forward towards a solitary tower.
Never chose to be a witcher. Fate chose for me.
CD Projekt Red came out swinging hard with these last two announcements. First was a surprise that The Witcher 3 is getting a remastered edition. Now, what makes this different from the complete edition that launched in 2022 with that next-gen update? Well, a lot actually. Improved visuals, combat changes, movement and mount tweaks, enhanced monster behavior, a revamped skill tree, transmog options, new finishes, an upgraded photo mode, and a screen's worth of scrolling updates and fixes for the game. It comes with the 2 expansions, of course, which CD Projekt Red are also making free for all players who own the base game. The full upgrade is also free if you already own The Witcher 3 on a qualifying platform, which now includes Battle.net for some reason. The remake launches on September 29 of this year, so not too long to wait at all. And that very neatly segued into our final reveal of the night, our first proper look at the very, very unexpected expansion to The Witcher 3, a game that came out 11 years ago. This is Songs of the Past, and it's looking absolutely excellent.
She touches us all. Be not afraid.
Didn't say I was afraid.
Songs of the Past delivers a new region to explore in the picturesque land of Letten, which holds a much darker secret right beneath its topsoil. According to the official website, quote, Geralt must overcome never-before-seen foes as he fights to overcome its long-dormant evil. More than his life is at stake, though. Across a story filled with choice and consequences, the fate of the entire land and even Geralt's closest friendship are also at risk, end quote. Geralt's closest friendship? Please don't tell me we're breaking up with Dandelion. I don't know if I can handle that. This looks truly amazing, and if it can rekindle even a microbe of the soul of the original game and its expansions versions from 11 years ago, which I think it will, we're going to be in for a very, very good time. And that was Gamescom opening night live. It's getting a little beat down online since the big reveals didn't come as thick or as fast as people might have liked, but I still thought it was broadly fine. Maybe it could have been a bit shorter because 2 hours is too long unless you're actually showing off Elden Ring 2 and not the gacha knockoff. Either way, I'm really keen to play a bunch of titles I saw here, and at the end of the day, that is what matters most. All right, that's the second major news item down for the week, so let's get over to the lightning round to make sure we haven't missed anything important. First cab off the rank is Xbox, who just announced a quote digital entitlement program end quote for people who own their games physically. Just like the name implies, the program would allow a physical disc owner to gain access to a digital license for that game. Procuring a license allows the player to use digital-only features like cloud streaming and cross-platform entitlement between Xbox and PC. All you gotta do, put the disc in your machine and redeem the license. That's it. Here's the catch though, you can only obtain one license per disc, and those digital licenses are revocable. The good thing is that physical discs will still be playable regardless. The feature will begin its testing phase on the 31st of August 2026, but Xbox has made it very clear, quote, while not every title will be available at launch, this is an important step towards a future where players can have greater confidence that the games they buy remain with them for years to come, end quote. They say the program will have thousands of games to start, and they plan to keep adding more in future. This of course makes it very easy for Xbox to not put a disc drive in their next console, Project Helix, because they can point to this system as a means of still being able to play your physical media, which is true, and it's laudable in one sense, but it also sucks that this generation will almost certainly be the last one where you can still buy discs. Let's hope that Nintendo keeps the cartridge alive for many, many years to come. Troubled Studio 1047 Games has announced that they're ending active development on Splitgate Arena Reloaded and Impulse on September 3rd of this year, taking both games to peer-to-peer hosting to keep them alive. They note that the main reasoning behind the shutdown is that neither game was making enough money to pay for servers. 1047 did not mention any sort of closure for the studio, but instead said, quote, after 10 years of focusing on live server shooters, our focus is changing. What we build next may look very different from what people expect from 1047 Games, but what has not changed is why we are here. We love making games, we've learned a lot over the years, and we will carry those lessons into what we build next, end quote. Impulse, their title looking to rekindle some of the magic of Titanfall, never even made it out of early access. The game will receive one final content update with a new map before the 3rd. A sad outcome for a studio that wanted so desperately to keep the arena shooter alive, but man, never was there a bigger poster child for the COVID-era video games gold rush, since these guys managed to fundraise over $120 million on the back of a game that had like 60,000 concurrent players for 1 month, and then that was it. Just an insane chapter in industry history. While the arena shooter might be dead, immersive sims are always trying to fight off the Grim Reaper, and this week, Harvey Smith, the former studio director of Arcane Austin, has launched a new studio called Black Pony Immersive, composed of several Arcane vets specializing in immersive sims. And before you say, wait, Arcane Austin, you mean the Redfall guys? Just know that really wasn't their fault, and it's better to remember them for the incredible Prey and Prey Moon Crash, because those were games the studio actually wanted to make. In an interview with The Game Business, Smith and COO Ben Horn revealed that the studio has been operating for just over a year already and has secured milestone funding from an unnamed publisher for the next project. Horn explains that, quote, our best shot is to rally around a creative vision that excites us as developers. It excites the audience that we know wants to play this kind of game. That's the best chance of making something great, end quote. Well said. Another studio spun out by Xbox is Compulsion Games, who are going fully independent and will retain their IP and publishing rights. In an interview with GamesBeat, Compulsion CEO Guillaume Provost confirmed that the management bought back the Montreal-based company and the majority of the studio leadership is still intact. He explained, quote, I did this deal for the team first and foremost. The team told me they would rather eat rocks and drink gasoline rather than be split up, end quote. Damn, those French Canadians are hardcore. As for what's next, Provost hinted that a section of the studio was continuing work on a project that started when the studio was still with Xbox, and they're currently seeking partners and funding for it. Quote, we're excited to gain back the rights of our intellectual properties and to keep making interesting, weird stories and weird worlds, end quote. And last but certainly not least, you want to purchase an R18 title from Sony in Australia? You better be ready to present that birth certificate, buddy. Not really, but Sony is rolling out age verification for the PlayStation Store with an ominous warning that it will be soon. This is similar to the measures that Xbox took to verify gamers' ages, owed to the sweeping changes Australia's online safety code made earlier this year. The main difference between the two companies' approach is that while Xbox allows for credit card and email-based verification, Sony only offers facial age estimation and government ID inspection performed by a third-party company, Yoti, who are based in the UK. Like Xbox, Sony will allow you to play the R18 games you already own. I would like to remind everyone that when Discord tried to do this in late 2025, 70,000 government IDs were exposed and over 68,000 of them were from Australia. So again, Best of luck, Sony. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, aside from the barrage of Gamescom stuff that came through, there were a few other tidbits worth mentioning. First of which was CD Projekt Red coming out at the start of the week to slap a release year on The Witcher 4. Bad news, it's 2028, but good news in a way since we've got that Songs of the Past expansion, not to mention the remake of Witcher 3, and all that should tide us over in the meantime. We've actually got a written preview up for Songs of the Past right now on thisweekinvideogames.com, or at least we should by the time you're reading this, unless Jamie got trapped in a schnitzel house or something, in which case, Stu, please delete this bit. Not quite an announcement, but we also got a new 15-minute gameplay video of Black Myth Zhong Kui, the follow-up to Black Myth Wukong, and unsurprisingly, it's looking pretty great. No details for this one just yet though. I'm also kind of surprised that Game Science didn't feel like paying Jeff for a spot at opening night live like they did for the reveal of this one last year. Hey, have you ever heard of Terranigma? It's an action JRPG that came out during the SNES era, published by Enix before they joined up with Square. But it's one of those JRPGs that came out only in Japan and PAL regions like Europe and Australia, but not in the US, which is kind of crazy because things are usually the other way around. Like we never got Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, or Super Mario RPG. That shit was whack. Anyway, over 30 years later, an outfit called Clear River Games, which is actually part of THQ Nordic, has asked for Square Enix permission to re-release this one on all modern platforms. No idea why Square Enix didn't want to do this for themselves since the game is still very highly regarded. Anyway, 2027 for this one. Handful of release dates now. Devolver's dungeon crawling, deck building Shroom and Gloom is hitting Steam Early Access on September 10. City management game Beyond the Stars, which is set on the back of a big space whale and published by genre specialist Hooded Horse, that's arriving on October 15th. And Jonathan Blow's next puzzle game that actually couples together puzzles from a bunch of different creators, Order of the Sinking Star, releases on October 8th. One delay worth mentioning, and that's for the co-op puzzle platforming sequel Trine 6 Together in Time. Can you believe they made 6 of these things? Blizzard should have never given up on the Lost Vikings franchise. Anyway, this was supposed to hit in September, but has actually been pushed out of this year to March 4th, 2027 due to some playtest feedback they had. Must be trying times for trying, right? No good? Can't blame me for trying. Okay, let's move on and never speak of that again. What came out last week? Well, actually, we'll go back a little further and hit some of the big ones we missed last week. First up, The Sinking City 2 is sitting at a strong 81 on Metacritic. The sequel had a bit of an identity shift from an investigation game to a survival horror one, and it's generally been pretty positive. IGN slapped an 8 out of 10 on this, saying, quote, while a lot of the basic mechanics and moment-to-moment survival horror of The Sinking City 2 feel inescapably like off-brand Resident Evil, it's a praiseworthy imitation of its main inspirations. The story presentation shows the limitations of its production qualities at the time, and I wish the detective elements were a bit more robust and challenging, but taking on imposing enemies and some truly inspired, detailed, and memorable environments while watching my resources dwindle reminded me of some of the best parts of this entire genre, end quote. Not a bad recommendation there, and the same could be said for fellow Ukrainian game Stalker 2, whose expansion The Cost of Hope also came out around the same time. This one's actually sitting at a mighty 87 on OpenCritic and a very positive rating on Steam. Here's someone with the excellent Steam username, Tony Salami, quote, the story is by far more compelling than the main narrative and always better paced. It's almost jarring to play it side by side with the main story due to how much they've obviously learned and improved on. The new areas are also great additions to the zone, end quote. Do be aware that people are still flagging that there's plenty of bugs, but hey, is it really a Stalker game without bugs? The World War I FPS Gallipoli also seems to be doing pretty well. Not many critic reviews at all, but on Steam things are very positive after about 2,500 reviews. Here's Steam user Pelvic with a nice brisk review, quote, the best in the series so far. If you enjoyed Battlefield 1 but wish the guns were more realistic and historically accurate, most people armed with one-shot kill bolt actions rather than everybody running around shooting machine guns offhand, this game is for you, end quote. Jumping now to Sikatamata, the fast-paced FPS that looks like Marathon but is more like a speedrunning Titanfall or Neon White meets Ultra Kill. This one's hit overwhelmingly positive on Steam after 900 reviews or so. Steam user Lucius on Steam says, quote, this game is insane. I'm addicted. The design language in this game is like a graphic designer's wet dream. The music is perfect. The gameplay puts me in a flow state within seconds every time. Just play the game already, end quote. All right, then I will. Okay, so what's coming out this week? Well, did any of you play that Duskbloods network test last week? Did you think it ran well on the Switch too? Well, let's hope that FromSoft learned some good lessons there because Elden Ring Tarnished Edition will have finally launched on Switch 2 by the time you're watching this, after being delayed from its original release date back in 2025, primarily because it ran like crap. I actually got an early copy of this and I played through the first few hours and I gotta say, it's perfectly playable now. Certainly not the ideal way to play Elden Ring since it does run at around 30 FPS with some frame drops, and a lot of the distance and the detail becomes quite blocky, almost like someone rebuilt the lands between in Minecraft, but it's a decent trade-off given that it's Elden Ring in your pocket, albeit a very large pocket because the Switch 2 is notably larger than its predecessor. Anyway, I'm sure Digital Foundry will have the definitive take on this, but for my money, this is more than fine, and if the Switch is your only video game playing device, then you now get to experience Elden Ring, and it's a masterpiece even at 30 FPS. You know, a game runs really well on basically any platform despite having like a million projectiles on screen at once. That's right, Vampire Survivors, baby. Legacy of the Blood Moon is the next expansion for this genre-creating game, and they only just announced announced the release date for it in between this week's episode and the last, and it's also Friday the 28th. This expansion adds 10 brand new characters, 16 weapons, new music, another large stage, and some semblance of new lore, all for $1 measly US or your regional equivalent on your platform of choice. Insane. Jumping over to next Monday, August 31st, Devolver Digital is kicking off the week with a game that has a similar number of enemies per screen to Vampire Survivors, Serious Sam Shadowverse. This is that co-op roguelike based on the long-running PC FPS franchise, though it's being developed by the Dead by Daylight studio Behavior Interactive rather than the original creators Crow Team. Crow Team have instead been busy with their new favorite niche, philosophical first-person puzzle games, as in their Talos Principle series, whose third game was announced a couple of months ago now. A very big shift for them. Shadowverse will be available on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles. Moving on to September, what better way to start the new month than with a new Moon, or at least a video game with Moon in the title. Crimson Moon looks like yet another high fantasy Souls-like, and look, you're not wrong, it absolutely is that, but it puts that kind of gameplay into a roguelite run-based package that you can either tackle single player or co-op. One of the big hooks seems to be hinged around how violent its melee combat is, but after seeing some clips of Mortal Shell 2 this week, it's got some tough competition. PC, PS5, and Xbox Series consoles for this one. Joining Crimson Moon on September 1st is another mashup called Grail, which fuses deck building, card battling, and auto battling into one colorful indie roguelite revolving around a bunch of woodland animals. This is the new one from the Dutch indie collective called Sock Pop, who punch out a lot of cool, tiny games with interesting ideas very quickly, and then go extra hard when they think they've landed on something really good. Stacklands is probably their biggest one yet. Looks nice if you're into games like this, PC only for this one. On Wednesday, September 2nd, we've got a few more indie releases. Angeline Era is one we've previously featured on our radar segment, a PS1 style action RPG with a big focus on recreating that feeling of surprise through exploration. It came out last year on PC and hit overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and now it's getting its console release on all current and last gen systems. Also coming to consoles is Moonlighter 2, at least for PS5 and Switch 2. This one's currently sitting at a very positive sentiment on Steam after about 9 months of early access, so let's see how that 1.0 update lands for it. The Switch 2 ports just keep on coming. If for some reason you're a Souls fan that only owns a Switch 2 and you don't want to play Elden Ring for some reason, then don't worry. Wolong Fallen Dynasty is releasing on Thursday, September 3rd. This is of course the Souls-like based on the Chinese epic Romance of the Three Kingdoms and crafted by the Neo developers Team Ninja. Honestly, it's not bad. A lot to like about this one, and the Switch 2 port comes with all the DLC, so if you're just getting into the genre as a Switch owner, you're going to be spoiled for choice really. Tell you what, if you don't have a Switch 2, you might be getting a little FOMO over this next one, Orbitals. This one releases on September 3rd as well, and it's a highly stylized co-op action game that looks like a retro anime pulled right out of the 80s. Somehow the folks at indie developer Shapeform have been the only studio brave enough to try to capitalize on what Hazelight have been doing in a very underserved market, maybe because one of the Orbitals game directors was also a designer on those Hazelight games, but who's to say. And the last one for the next 7 days is one I'm sure many of you are looking forward to, The Blood of Dawnwalker, the debut title from Rebel Wolves, a developer staffed by several former CD Projekt Red veterans, including some of the key personnel behind The Witcher 3. This is an open world clockwork RPG where you play as a dude who's a human by day and a vampire by night, and you have a limited number of days to traverse the world and complete quests to try to save your family, with the big caveat being that there's really not enough time to do everything before the 30-day timer runs out. Definitely very intriguing from what we've seen so far. Hopefully it all pays off, but more than anything, I'm just glad new RPGs like this are still being made. Welcome back Shenmue, but you're a vampire now. A quick note on the review for this one, don't expect my review anytime soon. Rebel Wolves were kind enough to send me a review code nice and early, but in between Zero Company and another game I'm reviewing and some previews I'm working on, I just haven't had time to start this one, and honestly, I just don't want to rush it. So I'm going to start it next month. Do look forward to my review towards the middle of September, and if you want to know the minute it goes live, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It's right there next to the like button. May as well hit that too while you're down there. If you sat through all of those releases and been thinking, man, that very brief mention of the Talos Principle has got me in the mood for an absolutely mind-breaking first-person puzzle game, then boy have we got the game for you. Put this on your radar. This is a game called He Who Watches, and it comes from a solo developer by the name of Bobby Vanden. It's a first-person puzzle game that throws you in a labyrinth filled with puzzle chambers that require you to shift gravity to walk on walls and ceilings, use a magical bow and arrow in different ways to manipulate objects, and pull yourself across spaces to work out how the hell to get out of each room. This one's actually being put out by puzzle game studio Draknek, who have been making excellent puzzle games for years now and recently got into publishing, so it stands to reason that if these guys thought the puzzles here were clever enough to put some backing behind it, then there's probably something really good here. He Who Watches is out on Wednesday, September 2nd, and there's a free free demo on Steam right now if you'd like to check it out. If you would like to check it out, we've left a link to it over on our Steam curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff we've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Our feel-good story for the week is bittersweet because it does relate to a celebrity passing, and no, I am not talking about Dolly Parton, though she did appear in one video game, something called Solitaire Cruise, where she acted as a tour guide of sorts. I don't know. Anyway, I'm talking about the late, great Tim Curry, one of the finest, funniest actors to ever grace the silver screen and our CRT monitors. Because anyone who played Red Alert 3 back in the day will vividly remember his wonderfully authentic Russian accent and his earnest portrayal of Russian Premier Cherdenko. In honor of his passing, it feels only right to revisit what remains to this day one of the best cutscenes in the history of video games. Enjoy.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
All right, everyone, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we have now officially seen GTA 6, and we are now under 3 months from its release. It's going to be a pretty wild 3 months, mind you, since about a bajillion games are releasing in that time, including The Blood of Dawnwalker and Wolverine and Fire Emblem and Control Resident and Silent Hill Townfall and Ace Combat and Star Wars Racer and like 50 other games. It's absolutely insane out there, but we're going to be doing our best to cover a good chunk of them here on the channel. So if you're into that, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and ding that notification bell so you'll know the minute a video goes live. And don't forget to hit that like button while you're down there. Oh, and if you're in Australia or New Zealand, then don't forget to enter that Gigabyte PC giveaway because Lord knows PCs ain't cheap right now. And if you can score yourself a free one, then you are doing all right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.